In order to have a barber license with limitation, the department may impose the limitation only with the approval of the notified board. However, if the notified board within 60 days after receipt of the notification of the department neither approves or disapproves the imposition of limitation, the department may impose the limitation. A person who receives a license or registration with limitation may receive a review of the limitation as approved in Section 519. A person licensed or certified under the Act repealed by the Act to practice an occupation on the day immediately preceding the effective date of the Act shall be considered to be appropriately licensed, registered, or certified under the Act until the expiration of the license registration. A license under this section must be renewed with a limitation. The department shall notify the appropriate board of the department intent to impose a limitation on the renewal of a license of a person seeking license renewal in the occupation for which the board serves. The department may impose the limitation only with the approval of the notified board. However, if the notified board within 30 days after receipt of the notification by the department neither approves nor disapproves the imposition of a limitation, the department may impose review of that limitation as provided in Section 519. It is the responsibility of the license or registrant to renew a license or registration. The department shall send a renewal application to the last known address of a license or registrant on file with the department. The failure of a license or registrant to notify the department of a changed address shall not extend the expiration date of a license or registration and may result in a discipline action. Each board shall consist of 9 voting members, except as otherwise provided in this Act. 6 of the members of a board shall be individuals who have a license or registration in the occupation which the board monitors, except as otherwise provided in this Act. 3 of the members of the board shall represent the general public. The director shall be an ex-office member without vote of a board, but is not a member for purposes of Section 5, Article V of the State Constitution of 1963. Section 302. The governor shall appoint an individual as a member of a board with the advice and consent of the Senate, including the individual appointed to fill a vacancy on a board. In making an appointment, the governor shall seek nominations from a wide range of interested groups and persons, including the appropriate professional association, consumer association, labor union, and other organizations and individuals. Section 303. The term of a member appointed to a board shall be 4 years, except that individual appointed to fill a vacancy on a board which results from a member's registration, death, disability, or removal for cause of the government shall serve the balance of the term of the member replaced and may be reappointed for not more than 2 full terms. A vacancy shall be filled in the same manner as the original appointment was made. The governor shall appoint an individual as a member of a board subject to the advice and consent of the Senate. Within 60 days after a vacancy occurs and within 60 days after the Senate disapproves and appointed by the governor may remove a member of a board or committee in accordance with Section 10, Article 5 of the State Constitution of 1963. Section 305. A board shall meet as often as necessary to fulfill its duties under this Act, but shall not meet not less than 2 times a year and at other dates set by the director. A majority of the members appointed and serving shall constitute a quorum. A member of a board shall not vote by a board shall conduct its meetings pursuant to Act number 267 of the Public Acts of 1976, amended being sections 15-261 to 15-275 of the Michigan Compliant Laws. Section 306. Annually, a board shall elect a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and other officers the board determines necessary. A board may fill a vacancy in an office of the board for the balance of 1 year term. Section 315. A school, institution, or other person which fails to receive license or approval or recognition of a program offered by the school, institution, or person may protest that decision and be granted an opportunity for review of that decision by the department under Section 520 or 521. Relicensure means the granting of a license to a person whose license has lapsed for failure to renew the license within 60 days after expiration date. License and registration fees shall be prescribed on a per year basis. If license and registrations are established by rules by the department under Section 202 as biennial or triennial renewals, the fee required shall be twice or 3 times as appropriate the per year amount, unless otherwise provided by the Act or rule under the Act. All requirements for license or register shall be completed by the applicant within 1 year after receipt of the application by the department or mailing of the notice of an incomplete application to the last known address on file with the department, whichever is later. If the requirements are not completed, the fees paid shall be forfeited to the department and the application shall be void. A person whose application has been determined to be void under subsection shall submit a new application and fees and shall meet the standards in effect of the date of receipt by the department of a new application. A person who fails to renew license or registration on before the expiration date shall not practice the occupation or use the title after expiration date printed on the license or registration. A license or registration shall lapse on the day after expiration day. A person who fails to renew a license or registration on or before the expiration date shall be permitted or to renew the license and registration by payment of the required license or registration fee and a late renewal fee within 60 days after the expiration date. Except as otherwise provided in this act, a person who fails to renew a license or registration within the time period set forth in subsection 2 may be relicensed or registered without examination and without meeting additional education or training requirements enforced at the time of application or relicense if any of the following conditions are met. The person applies within 3 years after the expiration date of the last license registration. The person pays an application processing fee, the late renewal fee, and the per year license registration fee for the upcoming license registration period, subject to Section 8. Penalties and conditions imposed by disciplinary action in this state or any other judicious have been satisfied. The person submits proof of having completed the equivalent of 1 year continuing education within 12 months immediately preceding the date of the application, or as otherwise provided in a specific article by rule if continuing education is required of license under specific article. Beginning the effect date of the mandatory act that added this subsection, the department shall issue an initial or renew license registration not later than 90 days after the applicant files a complete application. Receipt of the application is considered the date application to receive by any agency or department of the state of Michigan. If the application is considered incomplete by the department shall notify the applicant in writing or make information electronically available within 30 days after receipt of the incomplete application, describing the deficiency and requesting additional information. The 90-day period is told upon notification by the Department of deficiency into the date the requested information is received by the department. The determination of the completeness of the application does not operate as an approval of the application for the license registration and does not confer eligibility of an applicant determined otherwise ineligible for insurance of a license or registration. Notwithstanding any provision of this act to the contrary, an individual or qualifying officer who is a licensed under this act and who is on active duty in the armed forces of the United States in the area designated as combat zone by the President of the United States is temporarily exempt from the renewal license fee. A temporary exemption is valid until 90 days after the license release from the active duty upon which the exemption was based, but shall not exceed 36 months from the date of expiration of license. The department, upon receiving a complaint, immediately shall begin its investigation of the allegations of the complaint and shall open a correspondence file. The department shall make a written acknowledgement of the complaint within 15 days after receipt of the complaint to the person making the complaint. The investigative unit of the department within 30 days after the department receives the complaint shall report to the director on the status of the investigation. If the report of this investigation unit made pursuit discloses evidence of a violation of this act or rule promulgated or an order issued under this act, the department or the Department of Attorney General shall prepare the appropriate action against the respondent, which may be any of the following: a formal complaint, a cease order, a notice of summary suspension, a citation. A person ordered to cease shall be entitled to a hearing before the department if written requested for a hearing is filed within 30 days after the effective date of the order. Petition to review decisions or deny persons license, approval, and recognition. A school, institution, program, or other person which has been denied license, approval, or recognition within 30 days after the decision may petition the department in writing for a review of that decision. Notice that the respondent must accept or reject the term of the citation within 30 days. A respondent shall have 30 days in which to notify the department in writing that the person accepts the conditions set forth in the citation or that the person does not admit to the violation cited. If the respondent accepts the conditions set forth in the citation, the respondent within 30 days after receiving the citation shall sign the citation and return to the department along with any fines or other materials required to be submitted by the terms of the citation. The citation and occupying the person accepted to the conditions imposed. A citation issued under the section shall have the same force and effect as a final order issued by a board and may be disclosed to the public. If no further disciplinary actions are placed upon the person's record within 5 calendar years after the citation is issued, the department shall remove the citation and a complying material from the records. If a respondent so chooses, a one-page explanation prepared by the respondent shall be placed in the department's files and shall be disclosed each time the insurance of the citation is disclosed. Practicing regulated occupations or using designated titles without license or registration. A person, school, or institution which violates subsection 1 or 2 is guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable by a fine of not more than $500 or imprisonment for not more than 90 days or both. A person, school, or institution which violates subsection 1 or 2 a second or any subsequent time is guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable except as provided in section 735 by a fine or not more than 1,000 or imprisonment for not more than 1 year or both. Violations of act, rule, or order. Suspension of a license or certificate of registration. Denial of a license, certificate of registration, or renewal of license or certificate of registrations. Revocation of a license or certificate of registration. A civil fine to be paid to the department not to exceed $10,000. Censure and probation. A person who violates one or more of the following shall be subjected to penalties prescribed in this section. 602. Practices fraud, obtaining a license or registration. Practicing fraud, deceit, or dishonesty in practicing an occupation. Violates a rule of conduct of an occupation. Demonstrates a lack of good moral character. Commits an act of gross negligence in practicing an occupation. Practices false advertising. Commits an act which demonstrates incompetence. Qualifications of members. The Board of Barber Examinators is created. 6 members of the board shall have practiced as a barber for 3 years before appointment. One of those members shall be a journeyman barber. Rendering services of barber without license prohibited exceptions. A person shall not render the service of a barber without or with compensation on any other than his or immediate family unless the person is licensed under this article. This section shall not apply to a person holding a demonstration permit issued under section 1117. A person shall not use the title barber in any way, including but not limited to in the name of an establishment unless the person is licensed under this article. Student license. The department shall issue a student license valid for 2 years to an individual who fulfills all of the following requirements: has completed the 10th grade of school or has a valuing education as determined by the department, is of good moral character. Upon being licensed by the department, a student may render barber services to the public under the supervision of an instructor. A student shall not receive compensation for performing barber services. A student may renew his or her license for 1 additional year. An extension of a student license beyond that provided for this subsection requires approval by the board. Student instructor license. Has graduated from high school or provided documentation of an equivalent education acceptable to the department and the board. Is a good moral character. Is a licensed barber within not less than 2 years experience. A student instructor shall not render barber services to the public in a barber college except incidentally as a teacher, example, or to correct or complete the work of a student. Barber license requirements. Is not less than 17 years of age. Is a good moral character. Demonstrates completion of not less than a 2,000-hour course of study at a licensed barber college. Passes an examination approved by the board and the department. Has completed the 10th grade of school or has the equivalent education. Instructor license requirements. Is a barber within the last 2 years of experience. except as provided in subsection 2, has completed 1 year of instruction in the teaching of barbering at a licensed barber college, or has successfully completed 60 semester hours or 90 term hours in the course of an instruction approved by the board of an accredited college or university, and has a 6 month of instruction in the teaching of barbering at a barber college, has graduated from high school or has the equivalent education as approved by the department, has passed an examination approved by the board and the department to determine the individual's fitness to practice as an instructor, is of good moral character. Barber college licensing requirements: provides an educational program requiring completion of 250 hours of classroom study, demonstration, and recitation, and 1,800 hours of practical barber training. The barbershop: the transfer of ownership or location of a barbershop shall automatically revoke this license. A new license shall be granted to a new owner or at a new location unless the requirements of subsection have been fulfilled. The license of the barbershop and all barbers working in the barbershop shall be displayed in a prominent place visible to the public at all times. The license of an individual barber may be posted at the barber's workstation. Inspection: right to enter premises. Following the initial inspection required to open a barbershop or barber college, each barbershop shall be inspected at least once a year, and each barber college shall be inspected twice a year. A board member or representative of the department shall be allowed to enter the premises during regular business hours for the purpose of inspecting to determine that the barbershop or barber college meets the requirements of this article and rules promulgated under this article. Renewal of license: a student instructor, barber instructor, barbershop, or barber college license shall be renewed by completing a form provided by the department on or before the date prescribed in rules promulgated by the department. A barber or instructor who fails to renew a license for 3 or more years shall be required by the board to complete the license examination. Tools and equipment: exposure to ultraviolet light at a distance of not more than 8 inches for not less than 2 minutes from a pharmaceutical lamp, which is satisfactory to the Department of Public Health and which has a strength of not less than 15 watts. Tools sanitized in this manner shall be kept mechanically clean. Sharp-edged tools shall be wiped with 70% alcohol solution. When not in use, equipment shall be stored in drawers or covered containers. The refuse of unsanitized finger bowls, common powder puffs, common sponges, and paper cotton items is prohibited. Such items shall be sanitized before reuse or shall be discarded. Small items of equipment including combs, brushes, rollers, clips, pins, head coverings, caps, permanent waving rods, protectors, and supplies shall be maintained in a sanitary condition, shall be carried out between work areas on a person of a license. Use or storage of certain items prohibited. The use or storage on licensed premises of pencils, lump lime or drop washes, and treatments of the eyelids is prohibited. Only powdered or liquid estrogens applied on a clean towel, cotton, or gauze may be used to stop bleeding. Client protection: a clean, fresh paper or cloth towel should be used for each client. A headrest of a barber chair should be covered with clean, fresh paper or cloth before use by each client. A hair cloth or cape shall be used on each client. A clean, fresh towel or sanitary paper or cloth neck strip shall be placed around the neck to prevent the hair cloth or cape from touching the skin. After being used on a client, a towel should be immediately placed in covered container with a hinged door or lid. Creams and other semi-solid substances shall be covered when not in use and shall be removed from their containers with spatulas. Fluids or powders used on a client shall be applied from a bottle or a shaker type dispenser. A licensed shall wash his or her hands before serving each client and shall make all reasonable attempts to prevent the spread of communicable disease or skin lesions. Blood spill procedures. Temporary suspended service being performed. Provide the client or other person who is bleeding with adequate first aid supplies so that the bleeding can stop and the wound covered. Sterilize any equipment, implements, or tools which have come into contact with the blood spill. Immediately discard porous materials or supplies which have come into contact with blood spill. Immediately clean floors, countertops, chairs, and other doable surfaces in the area of the blood spill with a sodium solution such as the household bleach or other hospital grade disinfectants. Dispose of blood spill waste in clearly labeled leak-proof containers or bags. Records. A Barber college shall keep records of students which shall be maintained for not less than 7 years after termination of training. The record shall contain all of the following information: a summary of the student's attendance records, a summary of the student's training, the date of the student's enrollment, a copy of the student's contract, the student's final grades and graduation date. A Barber college shall keep temporary records of the students which shall be maintained until the termination of training and which shall include all of the following information: the daily attendance records, a record of atate services and practical applications performed, progress records.